Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of February 19th, 2013, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business that may properly come before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, February 15th, 2013, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, the Town Clerk of Westfield, the Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting.
Rich Matesic.
Here.
Lucy Biegler.
Here.
Ann Carey.
Here.
Mark Friedman.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Roseanne Kirstead.
Here.
Ginny Lights.
Here.
Gretchen Olig.
Here.
Mitch Slater.
Here. Lucy, could you lead us in the flag, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, announcements. Brendan, anything down your end?
This is from the intermediate schools. On January 17th, the Science Olympiad team from Roosevelt Intermediate School competed at the regional competition at New Jersey Institute of Technology. Roosevelt's team placed 4th overall, and the following students took home medals in the following events. Justin Ebert and Christopher Horner, 5th place, Biology Blitz. Esther Nam and Nick Walker, 5th place, Anatomy. Jack Mieselman and Tommy Riley, 6th place, Disease Detectives. Victoria Napolitano and Julia Yang, 5th place, Dynamic Planet. Angus Applegarth and Aaron Coleman, 4th place, Mission Possible. Avery Wenta and Aaron Coleman, 5th place, Shock Value. Victoria Napolitano and Shannon Pyle, 6th place, Write It, Do It. Congratulations to all those students and their teacher, Jeffrey Robbins, as they progress to the state competition at Middlesex County College on Tuesday, March 12th. Another announcement. Edison and Roosevelt Intermediate Schools participated in the national movement of No Name Calling Week, designated for January 21st through the 25th this year. Throughout the schools, students found innovative ways to become involved, working with the counselors and the entire student body on the impact of verbal bullying and the strategies for coping with and putting an end to name calling.
I have 2 announcements about parenting programs. The first is the counseling departments at Edison and Roosevelt Intermediate Schools will be hosting the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Jersey's 15-minute child break program on February 21st at 7 p.m. at Edison's auditorium from 7 to 8 p.m. Right, 7 to 8. The 15-minute child break is a 1-hour multimedia presentation that will include the importance of the parent or caregiver's role on substance abuse prevention, as well as how to talk to children about drugs, signs of use and abuse to look for, current terminology, and trends of use. This presentation is an opportunity for all parents and caregivers in all schools to come out and find out the role they play and the power they have in preventing their children from abusing drugs and alcohol. In the second announcement, the Westfield High School PTSO invites all Westfield parents to participate in a community event on Wednesday, February 27th at 7:30 p.m. in the high school cafeteria B. The event is being held to make parents aware of the responsibilities, potential consequences, and liabilities when knowingly or unknowingly hosting parties with alcohol or drugs on their property. Panelists will include Westfield High School Principal Peter Renwick, Athletic Director Sandy Mamery, Coordinator of Counseling K-12 Maureen Mazaris, and Prosecutor Tony Prieto. Information will also be available from Westfield High School PTSO.
This is from athletics. On January 27th, the boys and girls swim teams both earned the Union County Championships. Senior Ellie Reinhardt, juniors Sarah Cronin and Caroline Baldwin, and freshman Gwyn Devon broke the county and Westfield High School records for the 200-yard, freestyle relay. Today, both the girls and boys swim teams competed for the state semifinal, and they both won. They will swim for the state title on Saturday at the College of New Jersey. Peter Fagan tied the Group 4 state indoor track meet record with a 15-foot pole vault height to win the state title on Saturday, February 16th. This is also a school indoor record. Last week, 4 Westfield High School student athletes signed letters of intent to prospective colleges and universities. They include Megan Riley for the javelin, is going to Lehigh University. Jay Carew for boys soccer, going to Loyola. Shane Cronick for boys soccer as well, going to Penn State. Henry Smith, also boys soccer, going to Gettysburg. Congratulations to these accomplished student athletes.
And this is Intermediate Fine Arts. Congratulations to the following intermediate students who were accepted into the Central Jersey Music Educators Association Region 2 ensembles. At Roosevelt Intermediate School, Erica Lawrence will participate in the concert band, and Jack Putera will be in the percussion ensemble. At Edison, Alistair Capadilla, Dale Bayard, Sophia Gonzalez-Nolde, and Arthur Chow have been selected to the concert band. Congratulations to these intermediate students for making the Central Jersey Music Educators Association Region 2 Orchestra. At Roosevelt, Charlotte Perez, Mira Yang, and Jane Krause, and at Edison, Amy Liang and Su Min Chung. And accepted into the Region 2 Chorus for intermediate schools were Edison 8th grader Lucy Hale and Roosevelt 7th grader Leah Andrews. Congratulations to all.
Westfield schools will celebrate National Engineers Week with STEM activities. All next week, our secondary schools will be engaged in activities designed to raise awareness about integrating the disciplines of science, technology, engineering, and math. Edison and Roosevelt schools have prepared design challenges for students which culminate on February 28th with labs that will determine the effectiveness of their designs. At Westfield High School, math and science teachers have over 24 activities planned. In addition to the activities, students will also enjoy guest speakers from a wide range of STEM fields, including neuroscience, genetic engineering, cryogenics, and chemistry. All the elementary schools have STEM activities planned in the coming weeks as well. The next Board of Education meeting, I think that one will go next. Or last. Yes.
Okay. This is an announcement about our elementary schools. 5th grade teacher following up on STEM and engineering news. 5th grade teacher Betsy Freeman has reported exciting STEM-related news at Franklin Elementary School. 3 of her 5th grade students were recognized in the ePALS Smithsonian Invent It Challenge. Hundreds of K-12 students from around the globe participated. Their challenge was to find a real-world problem and come up with an invention to solve it. Our student, Dustin Payton, was named winner in the 9 to 11 age group for his Drip Gripper invention that recycles water. Dustin will receive a scholarship to a 1-week invention camp, some high-end Legos, and Smithsonian and ePALS merchandise. Rachel Saxon received the Helping the Planet Award for her invention to help rescuers clean marine animals disabled during an oil spill. Matt Rock received the Helping People Award for conceiving his shielded wire invention that would reduce the number of downed wires and subsequent blackouts during storms. Congratulations to these young inventors. We could certainly use wire protection during a storm. And more Franklin news. Franklin Elementary School nurse Robin Ince has been selected as a 2013 Woman of Excellence in the field of health education. The award recognizes and honors annually women who reside and or work in Union County and have distinguished themselves by making major contributions in their field. Robin began her career here in 2000 as a substitute nurse. and since 2001 has been a school nurse, health educator at Franklin School. She is a strong advocate in anti-smoking campaigns in the schools, with her students receiving awards at the state and national level for annual Tar Wars poster contests. We congratulate Robin, a 2013 Woman of Excellence.
Okay, in the world of the middle school world, 8th graders at Roosevelt Intermediate School in Westfield and Cedarbrook School in Plainfield wrapped up this year's Plainfield-Westfield's exchange program on February 1st. Meeting in Roosevelt's cafeteria, the students shared their opinion on the Steinbeck novel of Mice and Men and one of its major themes, the struggle to achieve the American dream. The students from each school studied the novel for 4 weeks, which included 2 visits between the schools to share ideas. Roosevelt also established an online wiki for students from both schools to communicate between meetings. In addition to examining the connections between the novel and the world, the students were asked to reflect on what they learned from each other and each community during the exchange program. Following the discussion period, the Plainfield 8th graders remained for lunch and attended afternoon classes with their Westfield counterparts. Roosevelt Principal Stu Carey noted the success of the program and the importance of our students learning at an early age the need to work together and understand varying points of view.
Okay, I have 2 announcements. February 28th is the new date for the Westfield kindergarten registration. Lincoln School will hold an additional registration date on Thursday, February 28th from 1 to 3 for children who will be eligible for kindergarten in the year 2013-2014 school year. This applies to all children who are residents of Westfield reaching the age of 5 on or before October 1st, 2013. Please call for an appointment at 908-789-4455. Information regarding documents that are required at registration is available at www.westfieldnjk12.org/Lincoln. And one other announcement for Spelling Bee. The Spelling Bee final, sponsored by the Junior Women's Club of Westfield, was won by Mira Meska, a 4th grader at Wilson Elementary School. And taking second place at the competition held January 28th at Westfield High School was Abby Zidell, a Jefferson School 5th grader, while third place was earned by Jack White, who is a 5th grader at Washington School. And the runner-up, coming in 4th, was Maxwell Switlick, a 5th grader at Franklin School. And congratulations to everyone.
And I have 2 announcements as well. Efforts continue by our faculty and students who are aiding those affected by Hurricane Sandy. In Monica Gundram's 2nd grade class at Tamaqua School, students raised $545 in the Give a Hand, Wear a Bracelet sale. The children sent a letter to New Jersey First Lady Mary Pat Christie to announce their successful fundraising towards the Hurricane Sandy New Jersey Relief Fund. The Westfield High School Community Service Club served a dinner to approximately 150 individuals in St. Paul's United Methodist Church in Bay Head, New Jersey, on January 25th and again on February 15th. They also sat with children and adults and talked with them at length as dinner was served. According to the Westfield High School Community Service Club advisor, our students were incredible. The Service Club is also going to deliver meals and toiletries to homeless individuals and other families in need in Newark on February 23rd and March 16th through our work with the Bridges Outreach. And the second announcement has to do with our continuing work on security. This past Saturday, February 16th, the Emergency Services Unit of the Westfield Police Department, administrators from our school district, and I participated in security training and security drills at Westfield High School. The goal was to have school staff understand what to expect and what it looks like when law enforcement respond to threatening situations at a school. And following an informative presentation, the staff in attendance participated in building exercises. We very much appreciate the continued cooperation of our local law enforcement officials and officers in our mutual goal of providing safety in all of our schools.
All right. Our next meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Tuesday, March 5th, 2013, starting at 7:30 p.m. at 302 Elm Street, and topics will include a continuing discussion of the 2013-2014 school year budget. The last announcement I'm going to read from the podium. right. I have the pleasure this evening to honor our vocal and instrumental students from Westfield High School who have been selected to perform in state and regional ensembles due to their top-rated talent. As I call your name, if you would please step to the podium to accept a certificate from the Westfield Board of Education in honor of your achievement. And I would note that we do understand that a number of our students are rehearsing tonight for the spring musical, but we did want to recognize them by name, even though they're not here, and we'll have their certificates delivered to them. First, we pay tribute to the students selected for the 2013 All-Eastern Choir. This choir is an incredibly selective group from the New Jersey, New York, and New England area. More than 1,000 students auditioned. 5 vocalists were selected from Westfield High School as follows. Liz Grismer, Allie Hecht, Michael Kirkland, Jack Mustard, and Matthew Lynn. And we'll have these certificates delivered to them. In addition, Cindy Chow auditioned and was chosen as a violinist in the All-Eastern Orchestra. The next Westfield High School students were accepted into the 2013 Central Jersey Music Educators Association Wind Ensemble Symphonic Band or Orchestra. These students were selected through audition among hundreds of other students from the Central New Jersey region. The Region 2 Orchestra performed on January 6th at Montgomery High School in Skillman, New Jersey. And on January 13th, the wind percussion students performed there with their respective ensemble. On Saturday, January 19th, these students auditioned for the New Jersey All-State Ensembles and are waiting to hear the results of that competition. We'd like to congratulate each of these students. Clayton Baird, stay up. You could stay up. Jonathan Clancy. Alex DeFabio. And Francis Wong. The 2013 Central Jersey Music Educators Association's Region 2 Chorus is a group that consists of students chosen from the Central Jersey area. These students performed on January 27th at the Monroe Middle School. The following Westfield High School students were accepted from over 600 students who auditioned from Central New Jersey. They include these 8 students: Anna Bloomfield, Aiden Hughes, Isabella Gelfand, Hasifa Cacoletti, Maddie Kevelson, Catherine Coe, and Megan Pina, and Melanie Snyder. Clearly, we have a multitude of talent here in the Westfield Public Schools. The Westfield Board of Education is very proud of the great accomplishments of these students who, through their hard work and many hours of practice, were recognized for their superior musical ability. Congratulations to them and to their instrumental teachers, Raymond Wojcik and Chris Vitale, and vocal teacher, John Brzezowski. Congratulations again. Great job. You guys don't have to stay. There we go. Before we change these minds. All right. With that, I'd like to recognize members of the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, we will move to the superintendent report.
Okay. We have two reports this evening under superintendent reports, and the first one has to do with the budget for next year. Now, the fact is we are still awaiting some information from the state, so although we're going to review some information tonight, we are talking about a draft budget because we do not have all the pieces of information we need to construct the full budget. But although some information is still being awaited, we have worked to create a budget that supports the education of all of our students, from those in pre-K to those in 12th grade. Dana Sullivan, our business administrator, has been working with the finance committee of the board, and I now turn the presentation over to her.
Thank you. As Dr. Dolan already spoke about, this is a draft budget. The state intends to release aid information to districts on February 28th. I expect that we will probably see changes to this budget based on the information we receive on the 28th. In addition to state aid, the state of New Jersey is using a new software program this year. And as of today, we've only received a portion of that software. So with the state aid, we'll be receiving edit checks and additional, the remaining portion of that software program, which also may require some changes to the program. So just keep that in mind as we discuss the budget. The March 5th will certainly highlight to you what the changes are. The budget development process begins in the fall and takes several months to complete. After the enrollment numbers for the 2012-13 year were finalized in October, the enrollment projections for the 2013-14 year were updated. These projections are used to forecast future staffing needs. Since the majority of the school budget is comprised of salary and benefits, enrollment drives a large percentage of the budget. Other areas of the budget are reviewed using historical data, trend analysis, and predictions of future needs. Over the last several months, Dr. Dolan and I met with each principal and/or central office administrator or department head and reviewed each budget request in detail. As we reviewed the budget requests, we carefully considered how each request would support the board goals and priorities. On this slide, you can see the priorities for the 2013-14 budget. Class size continues to be a priority for us. Cost-effective planning. As I talked about enrollment, providing for our enrollment needs. We've had a literacy initiative for the past year or so that we are continuing to provide funding for. Always security and the safety of our students and staff is a top priority. Providing special ed programs to children that require support services continues to be a priority in our district. We have STEM programs, which we had announcements talking about some of the programs in the district, and we continue to support those in the 13-14 budget, and we continue to support our technology initiative. The sources of revenue for the budget 2012-13 and 2013-14. First, I would like to note that 2012-13 is the budget as adjusted on February 1st, 2013. We are required by the state to use this figure. So if you had looked back at the budget that was adopted in 12-13, it would be lower than the budget that's adjusted in 2012-13, and I'll talk about some of the reasons for that in a minute as I go through this slide. The proposed 2013-14 budget includes a 2% increase on the tax levy. I want to note that the board actually can increase the tax levy more than this. You can actually increase the tax levy by another $479,293. And this increase is allowable under state guidelines because the 11-12 budget was under the state cap and also because of increases in health insurance costs. But at this point, this budget is just reflecting a 2% increase. We are estimating state aid to remain at the same level as the 12-13 budget, and this is obviously something we'll know on February 28th, whether or not that is accurate or whether that number has changed. In the 12-13 budget, we appropriated $1,456,746 from fund balance and used that as a revenue in the budget. So we are continuing to anticipate that revenue for the 13-14 budget. Now, here's one of the reasons that 12-13 was adjusted. In January, we appropriated another $720,000 from fund balance. We are targeting right now about $400,000 of that for security needs and another $320,000 for building maintenance needs. So that did increase the 12-13 budget, and right now those, neither the revenue nor the expenditure is reflected in the 13-14 budget. Reserve for encumbrances, that's actually purchase orders that are outstanding as of June 30th. That for orders that we had not yet received, or goods or services that we had not received. So those purchase orders rolled into the following year's budget, and that increases both the revenue and the expenditure side of the budget as well. So both of those two figures would not have been in the original adopted budget and are also not in the 13-14 adopted budget or proposed budget. Other revenue is revenue we receive from transportation, subscription transportation, some tuition revenue, our student activity fees that we charge for both clubs and athletics, and also interest income that we receive. In the 12-13 budget, we also transferred $330,000 from our maintenance reserve account for projects that were completed this summer. So that also is an increase to the 12-13 budget after it was adopted. So our total operating budget for 2013-14 is $92.022 million. The next item on there is special revenue fund, and that's all your state and federal and local grants. So right now we are showing a rather large decrease. The reason for that is because we do not budget for grants until we receive official notification from the state that we're going to receive the grants. The only ones that we do budget for are the ones that we are entitled to all the time, which are our No Child Left Behind grant, our IDEA grant, and there's several grants for non-public schools that flow through our budget. So those are the grants that are included in the 2013-14 budget. I am sure next year, when you see the 2013-14 budget adjusted, the state and federal grants will be much higher. It's just that at this point in time, we don't have notification of those grants. Our debt service is the taxes on our debt service is increasing slightly. Our debt service state aid is also an estimate. We'll know that on the 28th, so that's estimated at the same level. And we do not have any fund balance that we'll be appropriating in the 13-14 budget for fund balance for debt service. So overall, our budget is showing a decrease, but as I've explained, that's because the 12-13 budget has been increased for certain items that are not reflected in the 13-14 budget. This chart shows a history of tax rate increases. As you can see, it's fluctuated quite a bit over the years. In the early 2000s, we were up in the 7-8% range. That leveled off to the 4 to 5% range for a few years. And you can see in 2010 is when we took a reduction in our state aid, so we continued at the 4% range, and in the last couple of years we've been showing a 2% increase in our tax rate. And the amount of state aid that we've received as a percent of our total budget has decreased quite significantly over the years. Back in the 1980s, the late 80s, about 11 to 12% of our budget was supported by state aid, and that decreased to a low, again in 2010-11, of less than 2% of our budget was supported by state aid. Last year we did get another little increase, and we've been around the 4% for the last 2 years. So 13-14 will hopefully be at 4% or more. The distribution of the budget, as I mentioned earlier, the majority of our budget is for salaries and benefits. This is true for all school districts. It's a very labor-intensive industry. So when we talk about making any reductions to the budget, the significant reductions, it's usually in the staffing areas for that reason. Another 8% of our budget is dedicated to out-of-district tuition. Most of that is for special ed students that are going to special schools in either in New Jersey or out of New Jersey, and a small portion of that is also for students that attend vocational programs. About 4% of our budget goes for transportation, insurance costs, some professional development, and communication is actually our phone and internet costs. Supplies, materials, and equipment accounts for about 5% of our budget. Cleaning, repair, maintenance, and rentals is less than 1% of our budget. And about 2% of our budget goes to outside providers, which includes behaviorists for some special ed students, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and other type of consultants that work with students in the district. And also our legal costs are included in that 2% of the budget. In the 2013-14 budget, we continue to provide for the curricular programs that are in the district now. We'll continue our counseling services at the same level that they currently exist. We are continuing our support for the technology initiative, which I believe we had a large increase this year, and we're continuing with that initiative and that funding for the 2013-14 year. Our literacy initiative and the professional development that we are providing for that initiative continues in the budget. We will continue to maintain our facilities and make that a priority in this budget. All of our co-curricular programs and athletic programs will be maintained at the current level, and our commitment to keeping class size as small as possible, or at least keeping class size from not increasing, is continuing in next year's budget. Some staffing changes that we have made to the 13-14 budget. We have some increases to enrollment, roughly 50 to 60 students at Edison Intermediate School for next year. These are a bubble of students moving from 5th grade into 6th grade. And we have provided for an increase in staff for that enrollment. We are increasing 4/10 of a custodian. We are adding 4.4 teachers and also 1 resource room teacher. At Westfield High School, we are increasing our Mandarin program. That teacher will increase from 4/10 time to 6/10 time to provide additional sections of Mandarin. Right now, it looks like our enrollment will allow us to reduce 2 first grade teachers in the district. That's what we're projecting in the budget. And we are adding 2 self-contained special ed classes, 1 at Roosevelt and 1 at Wilson. So that will require the addition of 2 teachers and also 2 paraprofessionals for those classrooms. We have not added any money to the budget for that because the costs of that program we anticipate will be offset by out-of-district tuition students who will return to the district. This slide is our cost per pupil. This is actually calculated by New Jersey Department of Education, and it's published in their Taxpayer's Guide to Spending, which is on the New Jersey Department of Ed website. And they are using 2010-11 audited data, which is transmitted to the state from the auditors, not from the schools. It's directly transmitted from each district's auditor. So as you can see, Westfield, and this is a budgetary cost per pupil, which is considered the cost per pupil that is comparable from district to district. So there are certain costs that have been taken out of this calculation. For instance, out-of-district tuition, because that's not comparable from district to district. It's based on the needs of certain students in the district. So that's been backed out of this calculation. Also, transportation costs are out of this calculation. and there's some other costs that vary widely from district to district that are taken out of this calculation for every district. All of these districts are K-12 districts that with more than 3,501 students because they're considered comparable due to their size. And the state average here also is for K-12 districts with over 3,501 students. So you can see Westfield is pretty low spending per pupil compared to these districts and the state average. And the remaining calendar for the budget, as I've said several times, we expect state aid to be released on February 28th. The budget is actually due to the county, as the Union County Superintendent, on March 7th. So we will be presenting the budget on March 5th, and the board will be required to adopt the budget on March 5th so that it can be transmitted to the county by March 7th. Tuesday, March 19th, we'll have a regular board meeting, and we'll continue the discussion of the budget. The public hearing is required to be held between March 21st and March 28th. We are scheduling the public hearing for March 21st, with adoption scheduled also for March 21st. The 28th is also the last date that the budget can be adopted, and that whole following week is not only spring break, but it also 2 nights of Passover leading into Good Friday and Easter holiday. So that's why we have it scheduled for March 21st. So that concludes tonight's presentation. Does the board have any questions?
I had the opportunity, Dana, to go through this with you in finance, and I just thank you for your efforts in the numbers and putting together comparative data, and I know more details will be coming, so thank you. All right.
All right.
With that, we'll go to the second superintendent.
All right, we have a second superintendent's report this evening, and it talks about one of our district goals this year has been to focus on the monitoring of student growth and assessing student growth. And so all of our supervisors are working on this year with our teachers. And Dr. Linda King is here this evening. She's going to do a presentation. She supervises all of the fine arts programs in the district, and tonight she's going to share the work that has been going on in her department this year. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. First, let me give you a start of where we came from. Last year, the Fine Arts Department of 43 members got together in February for our in-service and started talking about assessments in the arts, measuring student growth, how do we prove student learning in the arts. We had to research some rubrics, what do assessments look like, and the ultimate goal was proving student learning in the arts at the end of the day. So, ironically, this summer, when I was thinking about putting together our August in-service for this year, Mrs. Barbara Ball handed out this book to all of us as administrators, Rethinking Teacher Supervision and Evaluation. And to me, this was a perfect book to get me rejuvenated and energized to take the Fine Arts Department down a different road of how do we make this look in the arts? How do we assess students? How do we prove student growth without just saying, wasn't that concert wonderful? Wasn't the play fabulous? Or wasn't the district art show just, fantastic? So this summer I started going through the book and figuring out that we should deal with curriculum mapping. Let's take a look at how we're going to curriculum map. Let's take a look how we're going to rethink supervision, rethink assessment in the arts, and tie it in with Kim Marshall. Ironically, last year when we started this in February, our teachers went out and started researching different models of rubrics and different and ways that we can assess the arts. And they pulled out a fantastic rubric that they wanted to model their rubrics by. And we didn't even look at who the author was until this year when we started talking about curriculum mapping, what it looks like, and what road we're going down for the whole supervision process and assessing students. And lo and behold, it was Kim Marshall. So it was great that we were able to move in that direction. And what they got in their packet in August was their curriculum that they're using now. They got Marshall's rubrics, they had a huge map and a district calendar, and then we talked about curriculum. My goal was to not make it a daunting, overwhelming task of thinking about all these things in the first year. So I started with the story of the college professor who puts the jar on the desk, fills it with all the big rocks and says, "Is the jar filled?" And the students answer, "Yes, it is filled." So he gets his bag of gravel. He puts it into the jar and it falls in between. He says, "Is the jar filled?" And they go, "I think so." He goes and gets the bag of sand, puts it in. The jar is still getting filled, and they said, "Is it filled?" And they said, they were hesitating on answering. He goes back, gets the jar of water, fills the jar all the way to the top. Now it's filled. What's the moral of the story? You could always add more to your plate. You could always find room for adding more into your organization. But no, the moral of our story was if we don't put the big rocks in place first, you won't have any room for anything else. So that's what we started with our big concept. So we started the process and we started professional learning communities in the arts. So we have 9 different professional learning committees, and they could go across the curriculum, across the district, level to level, or just in pods. Like we have elementary art, we have elementary music, but then we have strings elementary through high school. And they're not only taking a look at their individual groups, but they're going to be going across to look at vertical teaching as well. The first thing we talked about was putting the big content item in order, the big rock, if you will. And then we talked about the essential questions, the importance of essential questions being the heart of the curriculum. What do you want your students to know in the time that they are with you and have you? So they started talking about essential questions, and we talked about backwards learning or backwards planning, taking a look at the entire map. What does it mean to look at an entire year instead of starting in the beginning of the year and saying, I'm going to teach this month, this month, and so on. So what does it look like if we put in our concerts, if we put in the big shows, and then we start talking about the concepts? Where do we want to place the big concepts? How do we want to teach it? How do we want to prove student learning? Where are we going to start with the pre-assessments? What do we know that they know in the beginning? What do we want them to know at the end? And without getting bogged down with test after test, how do we make sure that we're checking for understanding throughout? So we started with this process. And this is what it looks like. This is what we started with in August. And it's still in place. So they're starting with, that's just an empty one, sorry. They're still using this. The music folks in intermediate and vocal are still using this. They're still planning out, they're still tweaking, they still meet. We had 3 meetings before January vertical meeting. We have 3 meetings after that. That one is an art one that's on board because she put it on plywood because she wants to see it every single day. So she stares at it and she tweaks it and she looks at it. Other teachers have put them on paper like this and they're writing on them. And still others are going into technology and putting them into place. They're thinking, which is absolutely wonderful. We said, let's put together 3 meetings before our January meeting. It's up to you when you meet, where you meet, how you meet, and it's a great thing. They're meeting all over the place. They're thinking, they're saying great things are happening. January 23rd, all of the art and drama teachers met. We reported out how their PLCs are going. January 30th, all the K-12 music teachers met. We reported out on how their PLCs are going. And at the same time, we kept talking about Kim Marshall. We were implementing the new rubrics. We're implementing the new style of observations. And I train them on the new T-eval program. So they see me in their rooms constantly. I've seen all 43 teachers at least 4 or 5 times. My goal is to somewhere between 8 and 10 this year. So we're interactive and we're talking through these assessments and learning together. So this is I have examples for you from where they are this far putting their map. This is instrumental student year 1, whether it's they start in 4th grade or 5th grade. Put in the standards, their instrumental concepts, their music theory concepts, their essential questions, and their assessments. This one, if you look at it, it's 2nd grade general elementary music. And you have to understand that they see every student. One teacher might be seeing 500 students. They're trying to keep track of assessing them, where they are, what they know, and they actually put in content item, rock. When I go and talk to them, they're talking about their big rocks. Essential questions, assessment strategies, their meeting. We have the tech-savvy people that are all putting it together. This is art. The intern who's helped me with this PowerPoint here today, Diana D'Amico, she put this together. Look. So they're talking about their elements, principles, skills, essential questions, what they do in the marking periods. And if you look at the last side, they also had projects on the right-hand side that can fill out as they're doing the projects.
So is that per child? Is that sheet per child, or is
They're
that
looking
the
at the big
teacher
sign.
trying to
That's the
look at-
teachers saying that this is what we're going to accomplish
Okay.
in 2nd grade.
Got it.
And then I'll show you how they're assessing so that they can see student growth for as many students as they have. This is a public speaking example. So we're talking about keep on taking it into Kim Marshall, alignment with their standards, the knowledge, the skills, the understandings the students must acquire, and taking time to reteach if it's not understood the first time. And I love Kim Marshall's quote, don't go slower and louder, reteach differently, do it a different way. So we're looking at that, and I think they're doing a great job from what I've been seeing. And here are some of assessment tools that you'll see that are being out there. This one I thought was cute at the elementary level. Rather than telling them to say the Star Spangled Banner, he called it the Star Mangled Banner. And he gave them a hint that there are 21 wrong words. Can you find them? So everybody should know their Star Spangled Banner if you want to take the time to do this. And we now, based on Kim Marshall's rubrics, they were making extensive rubrics for their classes so that they know what the expectations are, the students know what the expectations are, and they're there and readily available for them. And can you read that? So here's examples of different areas. Instrumental, this is vocal, how intricate it is, how many categories they have included. And there's different programs that we were talking about of how to assess them so that you're not spending the time listening to them one at a time, which I will be able to show you later. These are some art assessment tools to find out what the students know. This is a 1st grade. This is intermediate. Can you name the artist with the picture? This is one of the crafts exploration, one at the high school. She gave it out before she started the course. And this is the visual arts rubric of one of the drawing classes at the high school. One of the things that we're trying to encourage is not going into that's the way we've always done it before. Let's embrace what's new out there and try new things. And last year we had some people come in from Smart Music to demonstrate this program to us. We started implementing it in the school this year. The students can actually play the notes into this program. They can control the tempo. They follow the meter. At the end, they wait and an immediate assessment comes out. If they're at home and they're using this and they don't know a note, they just click on the note and you'll see that the fingering chart drops down to tell them how to finger their note. This is an elementary class and they use this tool. this example is them using this Smart Music program to tune the student.
G, okay? And see, the object is to get in the center here. And it goes like green. And it lights up green, it should say G. See if you can try that, Dylan. Want to try that? Okay, Dylan, see how you first hit the C?
Now, in this example, it's a classroom that's using this, and they're taking sections and they're sight reading. So this is something they're reading for the first time, and they were sight reading this. Now, you have to listen to the end of it because it's so authentic. They didn't even know I was here. And at the end, they're waiting to see the green notes and the red notes and how they did. So
Middle school.
this is middle school. So just at the end of it, be patient. So the green notes and the red notes came up and they can find out exactly how they did. They did pretty well with that one, and you can hear that they were pretty excited. At the elementary level, they're starting to use this program Zondel. And you can put in the quizzes. This is for any teacher. You can put in the information that you want. You give it to them on the iPad, and they'll take the quiz and get to play quick mini games in between. And you'll be able to assess them immediately. My cursor is.
Oh, I was supposed to get the pink. Pink. Hold on. Wait. Yes.
Here, press it. Yeah.
But now she'll give an example of exactly how it works as she stands over one student.
So what instrument is the cello in? What family? Yep. So click it gently. What instrument family is the clarinet in? Is it a brass? Do you have to buzz your lips? No, right? Is it percussion? Do you hit it? No, so it must be the... Click it gently. There you go.
And she gets the instant assessment that tells her what questions they're weak and what questions they're strong, so she knows how to tailor the questions and her teachings. Smartboards we're also using in the classroom, and this is one on color theory. Do you know your primary colors? Should I test you? Because they're going to do their secondary colors, and they have to place them in the right areas. Come on.
Let's put purple in its spot. Try it. Yep, let it go. Great job. How about...
Because blue and red
green?
make purple.
Can you put green where it belongs?
Really? Where does green go?
Blue and yellow. It's a little hard to see the color with green.
You pass.
Let's think. Where would it go?
Oh.
Excellent. And our last color is orange.
And this is another music program using the smartboard technology.
Good. Okay, listen to the next two. Listen. Do, 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 do. Listen carefully. Sitting quietly on your bottom. How about... Who's my turn yet? Nathan, can you choose this one?
Just watch the reaction.
Good, Nathan.
Instant assessment. And I know one of the programs that they're just giving a workshop on this week is Nearpod, and my public speaking teachers are looking forward to working with it so that they can give out information and the students can answer anonymously, and the teacher gets the immediate feedback and is able to know who's correctly answering the questions and how to assess them. Brain Pop has been out there for a while, and I know we've used it in the classroom before, And now there's a whole section just for arts and music on Brain Pop. And this last example is a 5th grader taking a quiz on meters, 3/4 versus 4/4.
So which one is, how are they different, 3/4 and 4/4?
3/4 is only 3/4, and 4/4 is 4/4.
So, okay.
So these are just examples of how they are getting to check for understanding, having 500 students, because they teach every student in the building. And we are going through assessments, and we are still using the big charts, and we're getting through technology. We're incorporating Marshall's rubrics, and they understand them. We're incorporating the new supervision model of me getting in, and I'm piloting that every month. And so we're doing some wonderful things in the arts, and I'm really proud of the staff that I have. And thank you so much for supporting the initiative, because we're able to do things like this. And a thank you to the coalition, because through their funding, a grant this year, we were able to get iPads for the art and drama teachers, as well as a projector. Since they don't have a room, they travel with a projector on their cart, and they do overall lessons sometimes just with their iPad and the projector. So, thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's terrific.
Questions, comments?
I was just
Susie?
going to comment and say that being that I breathe and live this every day, I can so appreciate the hard work that goes into, I mean, it looks like a lot of work, but I don't think you realize how much work when you're thinking pacing guides and benchmarks and rubrics, and how do you get to all these kids, and how do you what's the validity in it, and so much work, especially in the non-subject areas. It's so hard to come up with an assessment that's reliable and valid, and I'm really blown away with everything you've come up with. That's really thinking out of the box, everything you've done, so
Thank you.
it's really impressive.
Good stuff.
First of all, thank you. That was a great presentation. Lori just points out to me that maybe people in the audience or the public don't know who Kim Marshall is. There's a lot of reference to Kim Marshall, so maybe Roseanne or Dr. King, if you just want to give a little bit of context.
The state has asked for models of supervision in all the school buildings, and there were 4 typical ones out there, Danielson, Marzano, McGrell, and Strong, and Kim Marshall was added in a little later, and he had, and this is his book that he wrote, Kim Marshall, Rethinking Teacher Supervision and Evaluation, and his idea is, rather than going in for one view of the teacher or one observation, formal observation for a tenured teacher, maybe 3 or 4, for the non-tenured teacher, to try and get into the classroom on a monthly basis and to see snippets of education going on. He also created a rubric at the end of the year that the teachers fill out, and then the evaluators fill out, and then we talk about it collectively to see where we are. His rubrics are very intricate, and that's where our teachers were looking for rubrics that would be so intricate to use in the classrooms, so that the students would understand just their expectations, and the teachers would be able to stress that. And his were just like that, so that's why I was referring to him, and then getting that book and saying, this is daunting to put together, as she said, something, assessments and pre-assessments, and I have 500 kids, and can't you just listen to the concert and judge? And so all that together, when I read this book, it inspired me, because he had the map, and it just made sense to look at the entire year, look at the huge map, and start putting in the big chunks. Don't get overwhelmed with how many activities. You may have 5 activities that are different than your 5 activities, but the fact is that you're covering that one concept, that large concept. So that's why we started with the rocks in the jar.
Thank you.
One other quick thing, a recommendation that was made at a workshop that I'll pass along, is some of the teachers were wondering how will you prove the growth to the state. So the same, I don't know if you're using the same pre-assessment in the beginning of the year as in the end. And what we started doing is taking the end of the year assessment, looking at that map and giving it in September. And obviously they're not gonna know anything. And then
Right.
give that end of the year assessment again in June.
Yeah, we talked about
So-
that, and I was the president of the New Jersey Music Administrators Association, and now I'm sitting first year as a past president. And our mission this year was to talk with all the supervisors in the state and say, what could we give to this state instead of them giving to us? So we're creating assessments, and I'm pulling from the pool because I have just wonderful resources and teachers, and we're creating documents, and we're going to invite the state people to our last meeting and say, these are some examples of what we know can happen in the classroom. This is from the ground roots. Please take our stuff and use that instead of handing us another NJ Ask for art.
Right.
So,
It'll just prove your growth
right.
that much more.
I had a question. So how are the teachers finding student learning and engagement compared to before they started talking and doing all of this hard work?
Well, the programs are very helpful because it shows them student assessment and growth right away. I guess I was talking to Mr. Pinero yesterday about, wow, what did we do 3 years ago? That's a B flat. You were really playing a B. This is how you finger it. And they hear it and they know it and they can, but now to hear that and see that, and it's so exciting, it's just coming out green and red. That machine doesn't have a sensitivity to you feel bad or it doesn't, it's just gonna tell you like it is, and that's the way it is.
Right.
So,
So they're finding kids are more engaged, more willing to practice.
yeah, and they're happy
take
with
risks.
giving them tools and they're talking about it because we have a learning curve in teaching. We have teachers who, what is this thing and how do I turn it on? And other teachers who have been using it regularly. So they're all helping each other in these PLC meetings, which is wonderful. And they all know the end goal. I have stressed over and over through the year, I'm going to sit with you at the end of the year and I'm going to say, open up the third grade and tell me improve student learning. So they're getting ready for that. It won't be any surprise. And they're talking to each other, which is really great, and sharing.
Speaking of sharing, with
Thanks.
terrific presentation, is this something, and maybe Mr. Pinero can answer this one, is this something that's a model that we're using with other supervisors and other curriculum? Because this is, I mean, hopefully we're doing this in every possible core curriculum.
Good evening, everybody. Model's the perfect word for it. Linda did jump on this very early. We started having our discussions about the expectations for the state staff evaluation initiative last spring, and we began talking about the benchmarks and became a district goal for all of us. And Linda jumped on it very quickly. So all of the departments are doing similar work in establishing what the benchmarks would be and where their expectations are for students throughout the year. And I think the next good step would be maybe, Linda, if we can invite you to present this to the supervisors now that's all polished up. We have these discussions, and Linda's of course part of that when we meet every month, and sometimes more frequently. So we're all on the right track. But this is all put together now, so we can ask Linda to show it. And when you show it off like that in a presentation with the technology that complements it, it comes out very positively. The rest of the supervisors have noticed so far this year, as they move forward in the same process, that teachers are starting to see what Linda said her staff started to see, how helpful and powerful it is, and how it serves a purpose aside from accountability. You know, when all of this was derived from talk of accountability as far as maybe staff evaluation and benchmarks, but the way the supervisors are presenting it as a best practice throughout the year, I think is going to make a very smooth transition into all staff seeing it the way Linda's staff sees it.
Thanks.
And also, I'm sorry, I keep jumping in. I think the hardest part is to do the non-subject areas. So you've set that goal. It's only going to get easier, I think, for the classroom teachers because it's so much easier to prove your growth with can you write, can you not write, can you do the math, and you can't. It's harder to find assessments. You have to be a lot more creative in these non-subject areas. And I was just real quickly, is Westfield using, are the classroom teachers using portfolios for their student growth, or how are they planning on showing their growth?
Well, as was the case with Dr. King's staff, it depends to an extent on what the content area is and what's the best way to get a sense of where students are and where they need to be. In some cases, we might be looking at common assessment that is already in place. The work with rubrics has really inspired the supervisors as well, so that, just as an example, if using something like midterms and finals as common assessments for gauging the growth and then adding some form of baseline earlier in the year, that's been a working model for us. But we've been talking even more recently that in some cases, a performance, so a project that demonstrates the standards being achieved through a rubric that pulls all the standards together might be another tool. So it's going to be different based on the course, the grade level. But for the most part, there will be a vehicle for each subject and to measure the growth specific to the way students learn in that class. So it could be a performance type thing. It could be like a biology report that in the beginning of the year, we know all the elements that has to go into a good lab report. By the end of the year, you expect it to have grown to a fuller understanding. So that's one example. Or it might be that exams that we have in place balanced with a beginning of the year pre-assessment, as you mentioned before, might be the right case. So we're talking about that regularly, and we're compiling through Google Docs our list of how supervisors are approaching it at this point.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
All right.
I guess so.
With that, I'd ask the board to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on January 22nd, 2013, special board meeting held on February 12th, 2013, and the private minutes of January 22nd, 2013, and February 12th, 2013. Have a second?
Second.
All right. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm just going to abstain from the January 22nd. I was absent from that meeting.
Any other abstentions? All right. Personnel, Mark.
Okay, I'm going to break the 30 motions into two separate buckets. So I'd like to ask the board to consider personnel motions 1 through 22 and 24 through 30. Second?
I would like,
Okay. Yeah.
You would like to what?
I said I'd second.
Discussion? Any questions?
I do have some retirements to announce.
Yes, that's right. I was going to ask you that.
And as a matter of fact, tonight I actually have 5 retirements to announce. And the 5 individuals who are retiring have a combined service to Westfield students of 126 years. The first one is Mary Beth Mansfield. She's been the school nurse and the health educator at, most recently at Edison, but previously at McKinley and Wilson over the last 25 years. And her quick wit and wonderful sense of humor will be greatly missed, and she's looking forward to moving near the water in Massachusetts, where she'll be close to family. Tony Tomaso has worked as a resource room teacher at Edison and as a child study team member throughout the district for the last 37 years. He was instrumental in bringing the iPrep program to Edison and the Orton-Gillingham reading process to Westfield students. And he's been great in providing professional development to many of our teachers over the decades, and he will long be remembered as a strong advocate for special needs students. Jackie Stotler has been a third grade teacher at Franklin for the last 15 years. Previously, she had worked at McKinley and Franklin before leaving to raise her 3 children. And while taking off time to be a mom during those years, she subbed in almost every school in the district. She and her husband and their children are all proud graduates of the Westfield schools. So I'm sure she'll find ways to continue to help the Westfield schools even though she's retiring. Bob Pasternak has been a social studies teacher at the high school for the last 12 years, and he is a dedicated teacher and a colleague. he is always thinking of other people and how he can support them and how that he can help his students and also help the other teachers. Bob will certainly be missed. And Bill Gelber has been working for us for 34 years as a speech and language pathologist in 8 schools throughout the district. And Bill is one of those people, it is great as technology has changed from those early machines that were not all that friendly to what we have available today. Bill is always one of the first ones who figured out how to use that new technology to help his students with their speech. He's always one of the first ones, and he will be missed as well. And he also is a great supervisor of lunch. He instills in young students at elementary lunch the importance of treating everyone with respect and knowing that you have a responsibility as a student in the Westfield schools. So he'll be missed in many ways.
Very good, thank you. Danny?
Oh, wait.
Ginny?
Yeah, I just noticed number 16. Dr. Dolan, would you like to tell us a little bit about your personnel decision on the structure of high school guidance and
So number 16 talks about the process we've had in place both last year and this year, where we had 2 individuals who are part of our counseling office serve different coordinating purposes. Christine Huff has been the head counselor for grades 9 through 12, and Maureen Mazaris, the coordinator of K-12 counseling. So again, this was put into place actually first in the 2011-12 year and now this year. Since this is a stipend position, however, it is paid for, we do not pay for it at the beginning of the year, it is approved later on in the year, so that's why it's on this agenda. And actually, Mrs. Mazaris will be with us at the March 5th meeting. She'll be talking a little bit about the counseling department at the high school especially and how they're working there.
Thank you. Any other questions? Dana, please.
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to ask the board to consider personnel motion number 23 as revised at your place, at your desk, refers to 2013 additional spring coaching assignments that were not part of the last go-round. Second?
Second.
Ginny?
Yes.
Questions? Comments?
So
Roseanne?
does this round out our spring coaching assignments, or are we still?
It
looking for
does.
some?
It completes all the spring coaching assignments.
Comments? Okay, just from me, in sticking with my consistency of voting no on coaching assignments until we have our new review process in place, I will vote no on this. So,
I guess do I
Lucy?
say it now?
Yeah.
I guess I abstain, because I really don't know what you're referring to and what review assignment.
okay, so would you explain, Dr. Dolan, the
Right.
process?
So our supervisor of athletics, Sandy Memory, has been to the board. My memory is she was here last spring, and then she was also here in the fall, talking about the fact that she has revised the process for evaluating coaches. And so it was really implemented fully for the first time this past fall, not last spring. So the coaches that are being approved, this second group of spring coaches who are being approved, were reviewed under the old process. But starting with our next approval of coaches for the fall, that's under a new process of evaluation.
So these coaches are under the old
Yes.
process.
And there are coaches, I believe, on this list that are new coaches to particular
Yes.
teams.
Yes,
right?
that's true as well.
So can we, I don't know if it's appropriate, could we talk about individual coaches and how they were determined that they belong on this list tonight?
Mrs. Ball, do you want to just address maybe the process in general? Yes.
Is that in lieu of other coaches? Is that why you're putting in?
There was an opening We approved, I believe, at the last meeting, a roster of spring coaches, and there was an opening for a coach that was not renewed. This list includes now a replacement for that coach, I believe.
That is correct. Included in that list are 2 new coaching positions that were approved by the board. And so they were in the process of being reviewed and appointed or recommended at the last board meeting, and they were not ready at that time. Just as we do for teachers, administrators, other members of the teaching staff and community, these positions are posted when we know of their availability. They're posted for a minimum of a week, sometimes as much as a month. And people apply on AppleTrack, which is the automated system we have here in the district. And then the applications are screened and reviewed, and a pool of people are first round interviews and then a smaller pool to second round interviews. If they're people from out of the district, then reference checks are certainly critical to the process. And then the committee makes their final recommendations, and then Peter Renwick, the high school principal, and Sandy Mae Mary, the athletic supervisor, determine the people or person that they wish to recommend to the superintendent and ultimately to you.
So one of the people here is a volunteer. Is this person a teacher, or what is?
We have volunteer coaches in almost every sport, and they may very well be staff members. They also could be interested community members who have assorted expertise to bring. There is a vetting process for them, just as there would be for a paid coach. And so they have to go through an interview. They have to go through the criminal background check as well. They have to take the anti-bullying training, and so that they have to come as well prepared as anyone else who's already on our staff.
Thank you.
Barbara, for the 2 lacrosse positions, the head coach and the varsity assistant that have stipends on here, is the varsity assistant new as well?
The varsity assistant has moved from the other varsity assistant position, which then has had a dash and JV coach after it. The state doesn't recognize JV coaches, which is why we say varsity assistant. And so the person you're referring to moved from varsity assistant coach / JV to varsity assistant. So he will no longer have the JV responsibilities.
Okay. And do you know off the top of your head if the total stipend that is on this document, is it more or less or the same as what it would have been had we not made changes?
With the coach who was not appointed, he was at the top step of the guide. There are 7 steps to the coach's guide, and these coaches are at lower steps.
This one says for the head coach, step 7, year 6.
I'm sorry, I should have made that more clear. The coach who was not appointed had been in that position for more than a decade, and so not only received the stipend, but also received longevity on top of that. So that would be the difference.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
He's the one no longer in position.
Correct.
Barbara, when you started your conversation, did you say there were 2 new positions? Or did you mean 2 new people?
No, there were 2 new positions.
And what are they?
I can certainly tell you one.
Oh, okay.
One of them is one of the 2 ninth grade track positions. We had not had a girls' track in our assortment of coaches before. The boys' coach handled both, but we're getting more girls in several areas, and that was why there was a need at the ninth grade level to have a girls' track coach. I'm sorry, Dr. Dolan, right now I'm not remembering the other new coach.
I'm not either. I can give you the piece of paper, but I don't know which of these is the new one.
So this is the first time we're seeing freshman girls track.
Yes, it's not the first time we're seeing freshman girls on the track team, but it's the first time we're seeing a coach dedicated to them solely.
And when did we approve that?
I
I don't
That was
remember- I
on
don't
the
remember that
it was on the
conversation.
budget for 2012, 2013. It was an inclusion there.
Okay,
So perhaps last spring?
I would guess. And there's another new position?
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's one of these.
Okay. In
Any
the
other
future, if you have the opportunity to identify if there are new positions that we haven't
You're-
seen before, it'd be really helpful.
That's a great point, and I
Thank
will
you.
certainly do that.
Any other questions? Dana?
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Lucy Biegler,
No, I'm just gonna abstain from it because I don't know about what happened.
Ann Carey,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
No.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
I'm also uncomfortable a little with the process until we get to the next round, so I'm going to vote no.
All right. Anything else on personnel?
No. Sorry.
Facilities, I have no report other than to note that facilities has been meeting. We've been looking at the 5-year facilities plan, and that will dovetail into the budget process on March 5th with a readout of the 5-year facilities plan and recommendations for inclusion into the 2013-14 budget. That's it.
Yes, it was.
Long-range planning.
Yes, Long Range Planning Committee met on February 5th to discuss 2013-14 enrollment projections. The committee had a number of questions that Dr. Dolan is still researching. And so once we receive the answers, we will provide the board with a full report.
Thank you. Policies.
Yes, I'd first like to move for the approval of the policies listed on number 1 on our agenda. It's for second reading, and to my knowledge, there's been no changes since the first reading of those policies.
Second.
Any questions?
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Lucy Biegler,
Yes.
Ann Carey,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
And I'd also like to move for the board to affirm the superintendent's decisions on HIB 13F01 for the reasons set forth therein.
Second.
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Lucy Biegler,
Yes.
Ann Carey,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted,
No.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
I'm gonna have to abstain. I honestly don't remember, so I'll abstain.
Anything else on policies?
Oh, no, nothing else, sorry.
Curriculum, instruction, and programs.
Okay, there should be an addendum to,
Yep.
okay. I'd like to ask the board to approve for second reading the following curricula: World Language, French 6, French 7, French 8, French 1, French 2, French 2 honors. Thank you, Ginny, for the second. Any questions, comments?
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Lucy Biegler,
Yes.
Ann Carey,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Wow, no one else said it. We. Figured someone else would have said it by now. But set it up. Right?
May we?
Finance, Mark.
Yes, sir. I would like the board to consider finance motions 1 through 10. Second.
Second.
Okay. Just a couple of comments. I'd like to thank the Westfield Theater Guild for their gift of $3,600 to the Westfield Board of Education to be used for the Drama Department productions. So thank you very much. And then also thank the Westfield Coalition for the Arts for their gifts, $700 for Mr. Don Thieberger of Platypus Pottery School to present master classes to the high school. $1,000 to be used for the New Westfield High School Winter Guard Program, and $500 to be used for 2 guest clinicians to work with the wind and jazz ensembles. So thank you, everybody, for your kind gifts.
Rich Matezek?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler? Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record and move to legislation.
No report tonight.
Thank you. Any unfinished business? Any new business? Ad hoc committee reports.
The Technology Committee will be meeting this Friday morning to continue its discussions about the website, amongst other things.
Thank you. Liaison reports. Ginny.
Thank you. I attended the Recreation Commission meeting on February 4th for Mark. The bid for Jefferson Field improvement work will go out in March. The field improvement work will be scheduled to take place from mid-October to early spring. There will be an impact on field scheduling. Fall soccer will likely need to end early. And the objective is to have the field ready for spring t-ball. Meetings with the Recreation Director Bruce Kaufman and Westfield District Supervisor Buildings and Grounds Mike Morris were scheduled and indeed took place to discuss the impact of roof projects at Washington School and the high school on summer recreation programs. These meetings will help Recreation Department plan for safe playground activities while the roof work is underway. The revised extended school calendar was discussed regarding its impact on the opening of Memorial Pool and summer playground activities. But they will be managing. Push them ahead based on, and stay tuned based on our use or not use of snow days. And then finally, the town is considering upgrading the Tamaqua Park tennis courts in 2014 or later. And they understand there could be an impact on high school tennis teams and will take that into consideration. They would like the board to consider whether it can contribute funds to these renovations, given that the high school boys and girls tennis teams use these courts as their home court. There are 8 tennis courts at Tamaqua Park, and initial estimates for renovation, including lighting and fencing, were given at about $50,000 per court. We will discuss this bring this forward into facilities and talk about it. And then on February 6th, I attended Union County Ed Services Commission Board of Trustees meeting. And of interest, we were told that students at the Union County Technology Academy are available for summer tech support in schools. Their work would be free of charge. So I thought it would be reasonable to ask Brian Walker to look into this program as a possible source of support for our summer technology activity. Sometimes I know we employ college students and possibly others to help in that regard.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I attended the Franklin PTSO meeting, and it was mostly an update from me, the board. They want the board rep. They wanted to know what was going on, and then Dr. Cambria let everybody know about all the wonderful things that were happening at Franklin that were in our announcements today. So that's what was happening at Franklin, and then I attended the Roosevelt PTSO meeting today, and they talked about their continuing efforts to raise money, and with the student council, Spirit Week just ended last week, and it was a huge success in the school, and that's all for the PTSO liaisons. And then I just wanted to mention that the Special Ed Committee is meeting tomorrow night at Edison School at 8 o'clock. and they'll be talking about IEPs. The first part of the meeting, Dr. Weissman will be talking about the Easy IEP, right? Easy IEP, which is the new platform that the district is using. So for the annual reviews that will be starting soon, parents will be seeing a different document. So he's going to talk about that different document. And then the second half of the presentation, of the session tomorrow night, will be roundtables. So talking with other parents about their experiences and how to, the best way that people have found to work collaboratively with the district to get the services your child needs. That's all.
On, I think it was January 25th, I attended the Library Board of Trustees meeting, and they, I continue to be impressed with the way that they provide services to Westfield students. And one of the things that they do is they have a study hall for midterms, and I think the Westfield High School PTSO provided refreshments and also just some additional volunteers to just kind of man, the place in addition to the library employees. But that's just a service that they provide that I think is really useful and worth advertising, and I'm sure they'll do it again for finals. And then on February 7th, I attended the PTC President's meeting. Dana attended and gave a brief presentation of the budget, much like she did tonight. And there were also representatives from the Recreation Commission there to talk about the impact of the roofs, not only this summer, but particularly next summer, and what's going to happen with the playground programs, and ways in which we can communicate that to the students and the families. So it's something to keep in mind as we move forward.
I attended the PTO meeting for Tamaqua, and I don't remember the two literacy coaches' names, Lori Swanson, and the other name is, I'm not quite sure. Diana, long dark hair, I guess. They did a great job. There were a lot of parents there asking about the new Lucy Calkins program for reading, and just wanted to know about the levels and how the levels work. And all the sticky notes that go along with it, which is how that program works with taking notes. And the two of them did a great job explaining the whole program and how you move on your levels and what levels you can be on, and that that's not the only book they can read, and there's classroom books, and explaining the sticky notes. And I just wanted to make note that they did a great job explaining the program.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. With that, I would again recognize the public for questions and or comments on any topic. Seeing no one come to the podium, I'd ask the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, personnel, pending or anticipated litigation, and pending or anticipated contract negotiations. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Have a second? Ginny, thank you. Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Meeting adjourned.